In news from Jamaica, another update on the West Kingston Commission of Inquiry. Former Prime Minister Bruce Golding testified that there were discrepancies in what was initially communicated to him about the use of mortars during the 2010 joint police-military operations in Tivoli Gardens. Mr. Golding told the Commission on Wednesday that former Army Chief Major General Stuart Saunders had informed him that the devices being used by the Army were not mortars. However, he testified that he was shocked and found it quite significant when a statement released by the Jamaica Defence Force JDF 2 years later confirmed that the mortars were in fact used in the operations.
What I was told by the Chief of Defence Staff, and he didn't use the word bomb, he didn't use the word mortar either. He said the devices that were deployed were devices that were intended to have an impact, a psychological impact, that I'm almost sure he said they were not incendiary devices, but they were designed to create a psychological impact that would assist the security forces in carrying out their operation. That's what I understood him to mean. And I accepted that because this was what was being told to me by the head of the JDF. And I expressed my amazement when I subsequently learned from a press release that this was not exactly so.
At least 2 residents have testified before the inquiry that bombs were fired during the onslaught to capture then-fugitive Christopher Dennis Coke. Attorney for the Tivoli Committee, Carol Da Costa, during her cross-examination of Mr. Golding, suggested that he should take full responsibility for what happened to residents of West Kingston. She also suggested that the former Prime Minister neglected his duty as Defence Minister and wasn't privy to the Security Forces operation plan, but Mr. Golding objected.
Let's say the military were to come to me, as they did in this occasion, to say, we have an operation planned for Tivoli Gardens. I am the Minister of Defence. Let me see your operational plan. And I go through the plan. I see you have mortars here. No way. You're going into Tivoli with mortars? Absolutely not. Take this out. 3 months' time, they come back to me. We have an operation planned for Arnett Gardens. Arnett Gardens strongly supports the People's National Party. Let me see your operational plan. What? You have no mortars in here? You want to go into Arnett Gardens without mortars? You put some mortars in here. And when you go into Arnett Gardens, make sure you use them. Now, if that is the kind of option, the kind of authority that it is being suggested that as Prime Minister I should have exercised, I suggest that that would be a significant threat to our democratic arrangements.
Ms. Da Costa also tried blaming Mr. Golding for the power outage experienced by residents during the incursion. Mr. Golding would not have it.
Can you tell us whose decision was it to disconnect the electricity service of the people of Tivoli Gardens?
I don't know whose decision that was. I was told that power had been disconnected. I don't know.
So you had nothing at all to do with the power being disconnected in Tivoli Gardens?
No, ma'am. Prime Ministers don't disconnect power.
And you're not a part of that.
Not that kind of power.
How on God's earth can the effectiveness of a Prime Minister be measured on the basis of whether or not you had given approval? And if you hadn't, how could you have allowed power to be disconnected by a private company in an area?
Do you understand
Goodness gracious me.
Do you understand what that experience must be like for those people in Tivoli Gardens to be under the onslaught of mortar, guns, bullets firing, and no electricity, no phone, no communication? They can't see. And you're saying that's not your responsibility? Can you tell us whose decision was it to disconnect?
Stay tuned.